video. Today I'm going to be talking about menstrual cups, and I wasn't really planning on talking about this today at this point in my sort of menstruality series, and the reason that I am is actually a very personal, practical one. So I realised during my last period that I've had my menstrual cup for 5 years now and I really need a replacement. So I went online and I ordered a replacement and it came in. I have the lunette cup. I'll talk about that a little bit later. I won't show you my used one because that's gross. And that's kind of the reason why I'm filming this now, because I thought what a perfect time to show you and talk about a menstrual cup and how to use it and what I do, why you should use it, how to clean it, etc. I'm going to talk about everything menstrual cup related. So if you don't like blood, you don't like vaginas or personal stories about blood and vaginas, don't watch this video. But yes, I thought perfect, because then I have a clean one to show you, because although I, as you may have noticed, I really don't mind talking about very personal things, I think showing a cup that I've used for 5 years is probably a little bit too much information to give, even for me. So like I said, I will be talking about sort of all things related to menstrual cups, how to use them, how to clean them, why you'd use them, where to buy them, whether you leak, how to insert, how to use them in public, can you sleep with them, etc, etc. So I will leave a timestamp up here, and hopefully then if you're looking for a particular bit in the video you can jump right to that, and I'll also leave them all in the description box below, as well as anything else I mentioned, so definitely do check that out. And thank you so much for watching. Let's just get started on talking about everything related to a menstrual cup. So I'm going to start by telling you off 5 reasons why I think menstrual cups are incredible and why you should get one. So the first reason is that it's good for the planet. It is obscene the amount of tampons, pads, etc. that you go through, even in just one period or just in a day. Just imagine a full year's worth of periods in pads and tampons lying somewhere unrecyclable. That is just really upsetting, actually. It's just so much waste, and surely that can't be good for the planet. That kind of leads very nicely onto the second point, which that is really good for your purse or your money keeping. So naturally, if you continuously have to buy all these products, it's going to cost you quite a lot of money. Whereas when you buy a menstrual cup, you buy one for 5 years. And like I said, I got my full 5 years use out of it. And although it might seem like a little bit of an expense to begin with, say what I spent, I think £30 on this cup. Think about £30 over 5 years. Alright, actually, I'm going to try and figure this out. £6 you're paying a year for your cup. Then say you get 12 periods per year. So that's £6 per year. You divide by a further 12. So that's 50 pence you're spending every period. Now say you get an average of 5 days during your period. You're actually spending 1 pence a day on your period. Now, that is ridiculously cheap. That is basically no money. The other point is that it's really good for your vagina, and I don't actually see that many people that have made this video talk about this. Let's start with pads then. Pads obviously have smells in them, chemicals in them. You can reduce this as much as possible by getting organic ones that aren't so bad for you. But in general, you're putting something very close to your vagina that has been injected with lots of chemicals and bleach and other things. If you go on to tampons, tampons have exactly those things in them as well, but not only are they close to your vagina, you actually put them up your vagina. The other reason why tampons aren't so good for you is because they don't only suck up all your menstrual fluid, but they also suck up all the other great fluid in your vagina. So if you ever removed a tampon, which I assume you have, you'll probably feel that horrible tugging feeling, and it's because it doesn't want to move, because it's so dry up there, because it actually sucks up all the fluid. It's like a lubricant, isn't it? So it's just really horrible to pull out a tampon, and that can't be good for your vagina either. And actually fibers from the tampon stay behind in your vagina when you remove it. So I'd much rather have a cup, just catches my blood, and when you start using a cup you'll notice that it stays nice and fluid inside of your vagina. And when I first started using a cup, I was really surprised by this, because I sort of had assumed that really your vagina is only lubricated when you are aroused, which is probably really stupid, but I did think that. And using a cup made me realize that no, it's always lubricated. It should be that way, and it makes inserting it and removing your cup really easy. It just feels nice that your vagina gets to keep the environment it's meant to have naturally. And then my last reason is just that for convenience, it's really useful. So one, you're never running out of things because you always have this on hand, and it's not like you've run out of tampons or pads, but also it lasts so much longer. So you can actually keep your cup in 12 hours at a time, and that means that you change it in the morning and you change it when you go to bed. And I think that is fantastic, rather than have to think about it constantly. So now when I'm on my period, it just doesn't really feel like I'm on my period. So now that I've sort of talked about why I think a menstrual cup is great, I'm going to just show you what it looks like a little bit. So I actually got this in the post. I had a purple one before because I did originally read that it's going to stain, and I think mine has stained a little bit. It's definitely not been as much as I thought it would, but this is what the cup looks like. Probably when you're seeing a cup for the first time, you're going to think, wow, that's ginormous. This has to go inside of me. I invite you, if you've had sex, to think about a penis. That goes inside of you too. And when you think about the fact that you are always lubricated on the inside, to some extent, it gets a bit easier. I do like to wet mine so it goes in a bit easier as well, and being relaxed really helps. It also has this little wiggly thing at the bottom, which is meant to help you pull out your cup. I personally don't like that, so as you can see, I've cut it off here. You can literally just do that with some scissors. I found that when this was inserted in me, depending, because your cervix goes up and down, so depending on the day, this kind of like tickled my insides and like sometimes even slightly stuck out, and I found that really uncomfortable. And as soon as I got comfortable in removing it anyway, because you have these suction holes and it sucks itself vacuum, you do have to break the seal anyway. So you do, and you can't do that by pulling on this, so you do actually have to touch the cup anyhow. I realised that I don't really need that bit and just cut it off. So just to repeat as well, it lasts up to 5 years, or at least the Lunette cup does, but definitely check with the brand that you're looking to purchase from. I purchased it from the Lunette website directly, and you don't have to pay for shipping. But I'm sure on Amazon they have loads of different ones as well, or maybe even in your local like health food store they might sell them. I've definitely seen them there before. Most brands will have 2 sizes, like a model 1 and a model 2, one that's smaller and one that's larger. I personally have the smaller one, and that fits perfectly for me. Now, just to touch a little bit on what you can expect your blood to look like. Obviously this is going to be different for everyone, but it was definitely a little bit of a shock for me. I always thought that blood was quite runny, and it definitely is more like that towards the end of your cycle. But at the start, you can expect to see a lot of clots, or a lot of clots, but definitely some clots. And your blood is really sticky. It's almost like elastic glue type redness. It's really interesting, so don't be alarmed when you see that. You get used to it. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is how to insert this, which I think is definitely one of the more daunting things about starting to use a menstrual cup, because it does look large. I'm not going to lie, I think it looks quite tiny now. So yes, before you go and insert this, I would recommend feeling for your cervix if you've never felt your cervix before. Now your cervix is sort of at the top of your vagina, and it's like a hard ball, that like half a ball that kind of sticks out. Like I said, it feels quite hard, it's really round, and at the middle you can kind of feel like an opening. It's tiny, but it has a different texture. So it might take a little bit of practice, especially because the position of your cervix moves, and that is why it's really important to be able to feel for your cervix. I know for me that it does move, it goes up and down, but it also tilts, and some days my cervix is really tilted And what that means is that when I insert my cup, like, it can be at the top, but my cervix can be like right here sticking out. And so the blood is your uterine lining shedding, which comes through the opening in your cervix. So if my cup isn't even over my cervix, you might as well not have a cup in. And that is why it's important to be able to feel for your cervix. In case you have a cervix that tilts a lot as well, you kind of need to be able to go up there and feel so that you know that your cup is in the right place. Now when you're inserting it, then there's different folds to get your cup in. So one of the folds is a C fold, which is literally you pinch it in the middle to the other side, so that it's kind of like folded in half, and then you put the ends together like a C shape, and then you move it up into your vagina, and then you let go and it pops open. The other way that I know to go in is you hold your cup and you place a finger on like top rind and you press that into the bottom, and then you insert it and it plops open. I started using this because I was like, a C will never ever fit in. That is massive. So I was like, I'm gonna go for the smallest fold. What I found is that for me, the cup didn't pop open properly. And if neither of these folds work for you, there are different folds as well. So I definitely encourage you to then look those up online, because there are lots of other options too. Once it's sort of popped open and inside of your vagina, I want to go and you want to stick a finger up inside your vagina alongside it and actually go to the top and kind of feel around it. And this is just to make sure that indeed it's popped open, and to feel if indeed your cervix is actually covered by your cup, or if you're going around at the top of it, you'll actually feel if your cervix is slightly sticking out. This might seem like a massive undertaking, which it definitely is at first, so this is the perfect time to do it whilst we're all at home, because when you have your period, you have plenty of time to go to the bathroom for 5-10 minutes to get used to it. Inserting my cup takes me a full 10 seconds now. So then I think a common question is, do you leak when you use a menstrual cup? And yes, you can leak. I definitely went through a period of leaking quite a lot, and it was really frustrating, and I felt like I then still needed to use pads and things like this, and it just, I was like, so what's the point then? And that is when I started to figure out it had a lot to do with whether my cup had actually properly popped open and if it was actually covering my cervix. And that's when I said that when you are inserting it, to start checking those things early on, because when those things are done right, you won't leak. And then of course it is about actually how do I remove the menstrual cup, and I think this is another quite big thing. I know the first time I used a tampon, somehow I was so scared that it would get lost up there, never to be found again. And I think the same can feel a little bit with your menstrual cup. It always comes out, I promise you, it always comes out. So how do you actually remove it is that you need to break the seal or the vacuum at the top, because otherwise you're going to damage your vagina when you pull it out. So you can't just, it's in your vagina, I'm going to pull on this string, it's going to hurt your vagina, so please don't do that. You want to break that vacuum seal somehow. So one of the ways that they tell you is to pinch at the bottom of your cup and then pull out. Now I personally don't really do that. One, I don't really want to have to put 3 fingers in there to try and pinch it. I'd much rather just put in 1 finger. So what I do, which you will have done it anyway to check if it's popped open properly and whether it's covering your cervix, is again, I put in 1 finger, usually my index finger, and I go to the top, and then I do kind of a reverse fold. I go back to the fold and I push it in, and then I can very easily push it down. Rather than pulling it, I'm pushing it down. This does get a bit messy. I'm sure the other way gets a bit messy as well, so I recommend doing this on the toilet or in the shower. Just expect there to be blood, so even if you don't want to shower, for example, you can squat, because that's quite a good position for access, but squat in the shower so you're not getting blood possibly everywhere on your carpet or on your floor, but in somewhere where you can easily rinse it off. And then sort of lastly, how do I clean and store it? So this stressed me out a little bit at the start, but it's actually so simple. So when you want to use it for the first time, you want to sterilize it, because as you see, obviously it comes from an environment where, you know, it wasn't sterile, and now I've been touching it the whole time, so it definitely needs to be sterilized before you put it inside of yourself. And the way you do that is you take a pan of water and you bring it to a boil, and then you place your cup inside of it and you boil it for 5 minutes. Then afterwards, you just take it out with clean hands, dry it off, and you pop it in a little pouch. So the cup actually comes with a little pouch, and it's at the bottom here in the box, and it has some instructions as well. That fell down. But this is the pouch, so you can then just store it. If you're not placing it directly inside of yourself, you can just store it in here. So say you've boiled it, it's sterilized, it's clean and dry, you have it in your pouch. That is sort of how you store it. When you then have your period and you want to use it, you do that again. So you just boil it, it's ready to go, and then you insert it, obviously again with clean hands. When you then go to change your cup, for example, you've put it in the morning and in the evening you have to change it. You wash your hands, you take it out. You don't actually put the cup down anywhere. You try to touch as little as possible with your hands, and you just rinse it out under some water. So you actually don't use any soap at all on your cup whatsoever. You just rinse it out under some water. You might pull at the sides a bit to open up the suction holes, again to make sure that there isn't any blood stuck between there, and then you can immediately place it back up inside of yourself. From the start to the end of your period, it's kind of constantly inside of yourself unless it's being touched and rinsed underwater and it doesn't touch anything else. As soon as it touches anything else, or you rinsed it out and then you place it on the side, don't do that, because then you'll have to re-sterilize it. When you're then finished with your period, you just repeat it. You boil some water in a pan, you pop in your cup, 5 minutes, you clean and dry it off, and you store it in your pouch that you can just keep in your bathroom, maybe next to your toilet, and it's as simple as that. So I really hope this video has given you all the information about menstrual cups that you've been maybe wondering about, and I hope it really encouraged you to take that step to just try it. Yes, it seems like an initial investment, but it's just a really fantastic investment for your health, for the environment, and money-wise. It gets super simple in terms of usage, and it feels great. I forget I'm on my period when I use this now, when I never used to before. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. If there were any questions that I maybe didn't somehow answer and I didn't think of, and you're still left wondering before maybe you want to try, or some problems that you've been having, just leave them down below. Or I also have my Instagram link down below, so you can DM me if you want it to be more private, or a contact form on my website if you don't have Instagram. There's lots of different ways to get into contact with you. Lots of people have actually gotten into contact with me regarding like my last videos about sort of the menstrual cycle and how to track, and it's just been really great to be able to help people with some of the knowledge that I've had. I've been using this for 5 years now, as you can see, because I needed a new cup, and I think I've had a lot of trial and error, and I know a bit more now, and there's not enough information about just the whole menstrual cycle and awareness and all these different types of things. It's such an undertaking. It felt like a real undertaking when I was starting, and that barrier doesn't need to be there. It can be so much easier. So I'd love to help if you do have any other questions, and I hope this is helpful. I hope you give it a try. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next Menstruality Series video.